Well, howdy, young'uns. This is Raising Sweetness by Diane Stanley. It is just another regular day in Possum Trot. I was sitting at the kitchen table trying to figure out what to rustle up for dinner. I thought about pot roast, but I was plumb out of syrup. There was always tuna fish soup, but that hadn't been real popular last time I made it. I had about decided on spaghetti with peanut butter when a hullabaloo broke out. The kitchen door banged open, and in come all 8 of the orphans, or at least they used to be orphans before I adopted them. Now, you might think a single gentleman like me would be not much good at taking care of young'uns, but that's where you'd be wrong. Every dang day I sweep their little beds and hang their clothes out on the line to get it clean. And every night I lulls them to sleep by telling them stories about my adventures as a sheriff, like my shootouts with wicked desperados or the scorpions what turned up in my boots. Unfortunately, sometimes after they hear them stories, they's too excited to go to sleep. And now, with some regularity, one of them inquires as to whether I ever thought about getting married. I tell them I did once, but my darling done broke my heart and moved away. It's a sad, sad tale, all right. But I can bear it now, 'cause I got them young'uns. I tell you, they's all just as cute as kitten pajamas, and I love 'em to pieces. Long as I got a biscuit, they got half. So anyway, them little tykes come into the kitchen all screaming and excited. "Looky here what come to our house, Pa," they hollered. They was holding something mysterious. "What is it?" I asked. It's not good to eat, I know that," said Lizzie. "Can't wear it neither," said Pearl. "Well, I know what it is," said the teeniest child, Sweetness. "That there is a letter." "It is all full of squiggles and black marks. What's these?" I asked. "Them's letters," said Sweetness. Let me get this straight," says I. "This here is a letter, but these here is letters?" "That's right," says Sweetness. "I'm confused," says I. "Them letters spell out a message, Pa," she said right proud. "And I know, 'cause I've been to school." "Well, I'll be switched," says I. "Can you make out what it says?" "No," says she, and a big tear rolled down her precious cheek. Didn't stay there long enough. Had to go to the orphanage. At the mention of the orphanage, all the young'uns commenced to shudder. You see, that there orphanage was run by a female person named Mrs. Sump, who was meaner than a skillet full of rattlesnakes. She used to make them poor little tykes scrub her floors with toothbrushes, which is plumb ridiculous since everybody knows you can get the dirt out a lot faster with a shovel. But it don't matter now, thank goodness, 'cause I adopted all them orphans and put her right out of business. "Well," says I, "ain't nothing stopping you from going to school now. If people are going to start sending us these letters, what's got letters on them, we better learn how to read them." "Pa, you is right as always," said little Sweetness, "excepting for one little problem." "What's that?" says I. "The teacher done left," says she. "Well, yes," I answered. "I know that. She done gone to New York City, and that's a long, long ways away, maybe even 100 miles. So they had to get a substitute," says Sweetness. "Well, that's all right, ain't it?" says I. "The substitute is Mrs. Sump." Well, now that was an evil twist of fate. It looked like we wasn't never going to find out what that there letter said. But then little Sweetness piped up and says, "Look here, I know what to do. I'll go to school and figure out the reading, and I'll teach it to y'all." "Now wait just a dang minute," I says. "You ain't going over there. That woman ain't fit to sleep with dogs." "Don't matter," says she, "'cause I ain't going inside. I'm going to peek in through the window." "Well, I guess I'll allow that," says I. "But you ain't going nowhere with your hair every which way like that. Jack, run and get that fork so we can comb it out some. Make sure you wipe the gravy off first." "Pa," says little Timmy, "you ever thought about getting married?" Well, Sweetness went over to the schoolhouse every day. And every night we all sat around listening to her stories about A's and B's and threes and fours. Now, I admits I ain't had no schooling, but I expected Mrs. Sump was leading them little ducks to the wrong pond. For example, she was trying to tell them that if you adds up 1 and 8, you gets 9. Well, if a dang fool knows you gets 18, it's a good thing I'm here to straighten them out. And she's got these 2 different letters, C and K, for instance. They got the exact same sound, except that sometimes C sounds like S. I guess it depends on what kind of mood it's in. And every night, we'd get out our mysterious letter and look it over. We found out it had a lot of A's in it, all right, and some B's and C's too, although I wasn't sure how these particular C's was feeling, so that wasn't too helpful. I got so preoccupied with the reading that I got downright neglectful, such as Timmy's pants had a great big tear in them and I forgot to buy tape 3 days running. And one night I let my pickle and banana pie get burned to a cinder. Them sweet babies pretended they didn't mind a bit too, just so's I wouldn't feel bad. "Pa," says little Kate, "you ever thought about getting married?" Well, the reading went just on and on. By the time we got to P and Q, it seemed to me like we had more letters than we'd ever need. But most days, here comes Sweetness with another. "How many of them dang things is there?" I asked. 26, says she. "Well, dog bite my button," says I. "Seems like 5 or 6 would be enough. Heck, maybe reading ain't worth all this trouble." "I have a feeling it is," said Sweetness, studying our letter. "I'm starting to figure this out." Well, Noah's flood could have dried up before we got through that there apple bit. Sweetness said the little tykes at school couldn't make as much progress on account of all the scrubbing. Seems Mrs. Sump was still partial to toothbrushes, you see. And once she got them desks as shiny as a bald man's head, she set 'em to work cleaning out the black on the blackboard. "Well, that's all right," I says. "I bet you don't use those last letters much anyway." "Pa, you as right as always," said she. And that night, she was studying the letter as usual, when all of a sudden her jaw flopped open. Then she lit up and smiled like a pig done fell in butter. "Pa," says she, "you got any paper?" Well, I thought about that real hard, till my eye lit on a bar of soap. It had paper wrapped around it, so I gave her that. Now I'll be dogged if the soap didn't work much better after that, too. Then Sweetness sat down and started writing stuff on that paper. The next morning she carried it with her to town. And from then on, she stopped going down to the schoolhouse. She just sat around smiling and staring out the windows. Couldn't see much through them, though, on account of the dirt, so I cleaned them up for her. I didn't just use lard, neither. I used real butter. "Pa," says John, you ever think about getting married?" About a week later, I was mashing avocados for the ice cream when there came a knock on the door. Well, you could have knocked me over with a feather. Who should I see standing there on our front step just as sweet as a Georgia peach but my long-lost love, Lucy Lockett. Now, you remember my sad, sad tale? Well, it was all about Miss Lucy. You see, I've adored that woman since God made dirt. But a while back, she up and moved to New York City. "Why, Miss Lucy," I cried, "I never thought I'd see you again." "Well, you almost didn't when you didn't answer my letter. I figured you'd forgotten about me." "So it was you that sent that letter," says I. And I pulled it out of my pocket. I tried to smooth out the wrinkles a trifle. There wasn't nothing I could do about the ketchup spots. "That's my letter, all right, and I'm still waiting for the answer." "Well, you may have to wait a spell longer," I said, looking kind of embarrassed. "On account I can't read it yet. We've been working on it right hard, though." Miss Lucy looked at me all sweet and said, "I'll tell you what. How about I read it to you? That might speed things along, don't you think? Dear Tex, she read, before I went away, you asked me a question, and I said I'd have to think about it a while. Well, I've been thinking about it for a few years now, and I've finally made up my mind. She paused and looked at me. Go on, says I. Do you remember what the question was? She asked. Yeah, I said, and my face went all red. Oh, very good, said Miss Lucy. She went back to reading that letter. I have decided to accept your proposal of marriage. Ma! Cried the young'uns, and they fell on her like a duck on a June bugs. Well, I got myself a family since you've been gone, I explained. So I see, said Miss Lucy, patting their little heads. But let me finish. I will move back to Possum Trot and be your wife on one condition. I plan to go on working at my chosen profession. What's that? Cried the little tykes. I'm a teacher, says she. Now, when all the ruckus was over, we went into the kitchen to celebrate, and I served up some of my famous chili. I bet you can't guess what the secret ingredient is, says I. Catfish, said Miss Lucy. Can you believe that? Why, that woman ain't just pretty. She's as sharp as a pocket full of toothpicks. Miss Lucy, I asked, you said that since I didn't answer your letter, you thought I'd done forgot you. Well, that's so, says she. So, how come you sitting here at my table? 'Cause someone else answered my letter, says she. Miss Lucy opened her purse, and out came that soap wrapper. On the inside part of it was a whole bunch of them letters we learned. What do it say? I asked. So she read it. Dear Miss Lucy, come quick. We need you. It's a emergency. Sweetness. Now that made me pause a spell. Why, Sweetness, I'm tickled pink you got Miss Lucy here. But what was the emergency? Oh, says she, we just didn't want your heart to be broke no more. We thought it was time you got married. Miss Lucy went back to teaching school the very next day. She figured the substitute had substituted long enough. You couldn't get an argument on that, except from Mrs. Sump, that is. She was mad enough to eat bees, so she upped and left town. Last I heard, she'd done joined the U.S. Army. They say that since she's been there, them soldiers sure got shiny shoes. But then Miss Lucy finally tied the knot, and now my heart ain't broke no more. As for them young'uns, they took to Miss Lucy like a hog to persimmons. And what's more, they're all learning how to read now. So if we ever get another one of them letters, why, they'll figure it out in no time. So I'd have to say that everything is just about perfect now, except for one thing. See, my Lucy's got some right contrary views on housekeeping. Now, I let her have her way so's not to hurt her feelings, but she insists on dumping all the clothes in soapy water afore putting them out on the line. And she done washed all the butter off the windows, too. But the worst part is her cooking. Now, I wouldn't tell this to just anybody, but I gotta get it off my chest. If you can imagine this, that woman don't even know enough to put the raisins in the mashed potatoes. But a man will do anything for love. And that's the truth. The end.